So in this explainer, we're going to unpack his brand new local nature study. It's this incredibly delightful, kind of quirky observation of everyday life, and I am just so excited to guide you through his early morning window view.
Section 1, A Morning Cup of Scam, and his early morning routine. Okay, let's dive into this. What really grounds the quirky narrative of this poem is its highly relatable 5 a.m. start. You know the feeling, right? The poet forces himself out of bed just after 5 in the morning, his feet hitting the carpet as the daylight just starts illuminating the street. So he heads downstairs, kettle in hand, and brews up something, well, entirely his own. He calls it a cup of scam. It's this tinkering, tasty concoction made of a spoonful of sugar, coffee, and milkshake powder. Scam! It's such a humorous beverage choice. And it gets even better because he pairs it with 2 slices of iced angel cake, right in the middle of a heat wave. You just have to love it. Section 2. Enter Cyril the Squirrel and the spontaneous return. So, heading back upstairs with his trusty cup of scam, the poet stops to look out his bedroom window. Now, this is a vantage point he has observed the street from for over 20 years. He actually notes that even after 2 whole decades, he's still learning new things just by looking out this glass. And on this particular morning, he is pleasantly delighted by the spontaneous return of an old friend. Now, here's a fun fact. Denis delightfully calls every single squirrel that crosses his path by the exact same name, Cyril. So, looking out his window, he spots a Cyril making a grand sudden return to the neighborhood. And the physical comedy of Cyril's entrance here is just fantastic. Let's break it down. First, he perches right on the neighbor's fence, acting as if he's posing specifically for the poet. Second, he thrusts his back leg forward to give himself a scratch, and, well, because one scratch just wasn't enough, he does it again. Then third, within seconds, he's bouncing energetically along the fence and down onto the pavement, right past the gate. Section 3, The Great Pothole Disappearance, or How Cyril Vanishes. But then, just as suddenly as he arrives, our star character completely vanishes. The poet knows all too well that Cyril always appears suddenly, and then, poof, he's gone. Cyril hides himself completely under the neighbor's car, and the poet humorously speculates that the squirrel is probably under there to carefully examine an unrepaired, large pothole in the road. I mean, it brilliantly highlights the hilarious contrast between majestic nature observation and the totally mundane reality of broken neighborhood infrastructure. But sadly, after that makeshift pothole inspection, the poet hasn't seen him since. Section 4, Distractions in the Sky and a Parade of Birds. So the poet remains at his bedroom window, right? He's eagerly scouring the street for any further sign of his furry friend's return. But his patient wait turns into this unexpected, escalating avian parade. Let's look at the timeline. First, a dark-winged bird glides close by. A minute later, a pigeon lands on the neighbor's fence, and it's soon joined by a purple and blue companion. Another minute passes, and a third pigeon flies into the street. 3 minutes in, and a whole flock crosses the sky. It's just a sheer abundance of wildlife showing up absolutely everywhere, except where he wants. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next down on the street, where some comedic drama starts to unfold. 2 pigeons are waddling around, repeatedly challenging each other for food. It's a classic food fight. After a brief scuffle, only one remains. Denis writes that the victor waddled proudly with a swagger, as if it owned the street. It's this tiny, triumphant neighborhood battle taking place right in front of him. But the aerial distractions, they just keep coming. He meticulously observes a whole cast of unexpected characters. We've got tiny sparrows dangling precariously on a thin street wire. There's a pigeon perched high up on a TV aerial, getting a free view of the neighborhood. And right at the end of the street, 3 birds flying together in a perfectly straight, synchronized line, an event he genuinely calls a delight. Nature is seriously putting on an absolute show here. Soon after those synchronized birds, a sudden, massive flock of 20 tiny birds comes flapping across the skyline. 20 of them! The sheer volume of activity happening just outside this one-bedroom window at 5 a.m. is pretty spectacular when you stop to think about it. And this really reveals the core contrast of the entire poem. On one hand, you have the poet's highly focused search for exactly one single squirrel named Cyril. But the reality he actually encounters? It's a chaotic, bustling abundance of dozens of pigeons, sparrows, and crows. He's looking for one specific friend, but basically the rest of the animal kingdom shows up instead. Section 5. But where is Cyril? A puzzled plea. So now we've reached the frustrating yet utterly funny climax of this backyard mystery. The poet has witnessed an entire avian parade, but the original star of the show is still totally missing in action. And to rub salt in the wound, right at the very end, 3 large blackbirds, crows, rooks, or ravens, fly down and land squarely on a neighbor's roof. Denis actually notes that they just sit up there as if they are actively taunting him, mocking this futile, extended wait for a squirrel that is clearly long gone. Which leads directly to the poem's completely perplexed and vexed conclusion. The poet finally lets out this puzzled plea. Yes, 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 but where's Cyril? It's such a brilliant, relatable ending, isn't it? It really makes you wonder what delightful, everyday wildlife mysteries are happening right outside your own windows while you are looking the other way. Next time you have your morning coffee or, hey, a cup of scam, take a real look outside. You might just spot your own Cyril. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep observing.